Hello, you guys, and welcome to my studio. It is me, Gideon. I'm also known as Gideon's Light, and I'm your creatively fit coach, right? Thank you guys for joining me for another episode. We continue with our journey in our art journals. So you will see I'm surrounded with beautiful water lilies and lotuses, and this will be my focus on my Patreon next month during the month of May 2024. The theme will be No Mud, No Lotus. So do look out for that. There will be links in the description below that you can use and follow. I hope that you will join me. But we are carrying on with our creative art prompts in our art journal. And today I played with this beautiful page in my art journal. Let me bring it closer for you because the theme for this week is feathers. And we want to sort of just look at what feathers represent in your life. And for me, it means freedom. So I'm going to play in my art journal. We're going to play with a bit of watercolor and just have a little bit of fun in our art journal. So if you want to know how I created this little page in my art journal to inspire you in your creative practice, then give me a second, let me turn the camera around and I'll show you exactly how. So this week we're starting with a whole new prompt range for the next 7 weeks and going forward into the future. The prompts is going to be very simple and I really think beginner friendly. So today my theme is feathers and I'm going to play with a stencil. So what I've got here is this beautiful stencil. It's something that you can get yourself, or you can create your own. There's a numerous way that you will be able to go about this exercise today, but I'm going to be playing with my stencil and I've got some watercolor paper prepared. This is my art journal. I've used some masking tape just to round off the squares. And what I've done here is I've prepared the ground with some white titanium acrylic paint just to strengthen my paper. And I am going to be playing with a number of beautiful pastel shades. I've got here some lavender and I've got a metallic pink and a rosa, what shall we call this, pastel color. So I've got my little round mop brush here because what I want to do is I first want to prepare this foundation paper upon which I will collage the feathers that we will be creating. So you can obviously go about this in any way, shape or form that you feel comfortable with. So let's start with a few blobs of metallic purple. And I'm going to use my dry brush, mop brush here. And I'm just going to work this into the surface in a circular manner. And just blend this in and just play with this paint on my paper. But while I'm doing this, I want to tell you guys what is happening on my Patreon page, what I'm planning for May this year. This is going to be exciting because it's one of my main themes in my life, and that is to play with lotus flowers in my sort of creativity. So the month of May on my Patreon, the theme will be No Mud, No Lotus. And that is such a powerful theme, especially when we think about events in the world and where we stand as a humanity, both individually and globally, as you know, humanity faces very interesting and challenging times on our planet. So, what does it mean? I really think that, we have an opportunity to look at our lives and sort of realize that the challenges or obstacles that we face is only, what you tell yourself it is, really. And what I mean with that is the only thing that we have control over in our lives is our own attitude and the way that we sort of perceive things and we deal with things and we go about things. We can't control the weather, we can't control what other people think of us, we can't control what other people do, the choices they make or the actions they take, but we can control how we respond to it. And I think ultimately that is the biggest challenge that we face both on a personal level as well as globally. So Nomad No Lotus really talks about this energy in a very dynamic way. The lotus flower is considered a very spiritual flower. It represents enlightenment in Buddhism and in so many other cultures and belief systems in the world. It is really a sacred plant. There's just so many things that we will explore together next month on my Patreon, here on YouTube, and on my Facebook group. I'm going to make various sort of levels of this material available for everyone to play with and to participate in. So I want to encourage you to join my Patreon. It's only $5 a month. And you can jump on and jump off at any time. There's no contracts. You just create a profile for yourself on Patreon and you can literally just be an observer. So I do have the free tier if you just want to check out my style and sort of what I do. And at this stage, I share sort of my past work with my free tier on Patreon. And I want to encourage you to check it out. But then if you join the paid tier, like I said, it's only $5 a month, then you will have access to everything that I do. Let's jump to maybe a metallic pink here. So what I'm planning on my Patreon is there is already a course that I've done before, No Mud, No Lotus, and that will only be available to my Patreons. And what I did in that course, and it's really beginner friendly, it was a workshop that I did in my Painting in the Park series. And we really dive much deeper into this whole concept of No Mud, No Lotus, and the acrylic painting that I do on that class is really beginner friendly. So even if you've never painted before, you will be able to join me and you will be able to have fun with it and sort of attain or achieve the same quality painting that I did in that class. So do check that out. And then I'm planning a live event on the 1st of May. Here in South Africa, the 1st of May is a public holiday. So I will have time to come live. I think I'm going to do a live painting session for you guys here on YouTube. So if you can join me on the 1st of May, then do join me. I will make sort of announcements a little bit closer to the time and just share with you guys. And yeah, there's just beautiful sort of events that I'm planning throughout the month. If you're on my Patreon, then you will have access every day to a new video that I've been creating in the background here. I've been painting a lotus flower for my bedroom, and it's quite a big painting. I think it's about 1 meter by 70 centimeters roughly. It's all done in acrylic and it's a beautiful sunset over a lotus pond. And I'm quite pleased with how this is progressing in my studio. You will see more of that painting. I will maybe show you guys today a little bit about how far I am with that. And you can sort of get an idea of what I'm on about. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love this rich color. So that's really lovely. Okay, let's switch to this lilac color. I was just drawn today to these purples and to playing with some watercolor paper. Now the reason why I'm switching to a watercolor paper here is because my art journals paper is not strong enough to deal with a lot of media that I throw at it. So what I've got here is 300 GSM watercolor paper. So that's quite a strong watercolor paper. It can handle a lot. I've used my masking tape just to seal this down and to give me a protected border. And I've got here my watercolor palette. Now before we start, I think it's a good idea just to mist your watercolor paint with some water. I've got my watercolor brushes here. So if you do a mixed media sort of work like I do, you must have brushes for every medium that you play with. I will definitely not use my watercolor brushes for acrylic paint because they will never be the same again. Alrighty then, let's get into this watercolor paper. And like I said, I want to play with some greens and browns and maybe a little bit of violets to just make a bridge here. And I think it will harmonize very well with the colors that we started with on our page. I hope you guys can see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to use a big mop brush here. I just want to get some clean water and I'm just going to sort of splatter it all over this page. And I'm just going to make areas wet and leave other areas dry. And what I'm doing here with making some areas wet and leaving other areas dry is I'm creating areas that will flow and I've got areas that won't flow. So everywhere I put water, when I put paint on it, it's gonna flow into that, and areas where the paper is dry, basically I will have a harder edge and the paint won't move as much. Right, we've got a nice flow of water there. I've got my round watercolor brush here, and let's start here with a beautiful sap green. And I want quite a strong mixture of watercolor paint. So I've pre-wetted these little wells of color. And I'm just going to tap some of this color in now. And why I've pre-wetted this paint that I'm going to use today is I just need it to give to me when I sort of dig my brush in there, because I want quite a strong mixture. And I find that my greens in general sometimes are hard to give. And what I mean with that is it's like they they don't always want to release their pigment when I need them to. So by pre-wetting it a little bit, it will release its pigment a little bit easier. I just love how that flows. That is just so beautiful. Nice. Let's get into one of these browns. I can't remember. I've got 3 different browns here next to each other. I can't remember which one is which, but this looks like the Van Dyke brown. And this one, let's try here. That's a different brown. I don't know what's that brown's name. It's the only thing about your watercolor palette is once you've got it in there, unless you've got a little chart. I think this is sepia. Yes, this is sepia. Let's tap some of the brown in there. I'm thinking of the spots that are on feathers. Let's get back into our greens. There's a bit of an olive green that's almost finished. Let's get back into the sap green here. It's nice. I think this is a pyrrole green. Okay, now let's get into some of our violets here and there. I'm going to try a variety. Here's a mauve color. So now I can aim for areas that doesn't have any paint on them. Let's get some dark sizzling purple going here. What other purple have I got here? What's this? I think that's indigo. Let's try some of that over here. I think a little bit of magenta might look nice next to that. Indigo, oh, that's pretty. So one way to sort of prevent mud is to, especially if you put complementary colors next to each other, is to have these dry areas that you can aim for after the fact. Let's get back into this brown. So it's nice to use a few neutrals with your color, and then neutral is anything gray or brown because they are the combination of a number of colors on your color wheel. So that makes the other colors look a little bit more vibrant. Let's use some of the sepia here where there's lots of water. Again, some spots might be nice. It's a nice rich color palette. So wherever there's too much water, it's making too much of a puddle. I'm just using a kitchen towel to just dry out my brush, and then I can just roll it into that pool of water and just suck some of it up so that it doesn't completely drench my page, so that I can continue to add some color there without drowning the paper in too much water. Of salt as well. So I've just got here ordinary pink salt or rock salt, and it's very fine. And my paper is sort of dry in a different sort of stages. There are areas that's very wet, there's areas that's a bit drier. So I'm just going to sprinkle some salt on there, not too much, because they will dry in a different rate, and the salt will cause beautiful little blooms. So that's going to be nice. So you can see this area dried faster than the rest. So here we've got a nice hard edge. That's interesting. I think I'm going to just come ahead with a wet brush and just open some of these areas. Now Viridian green is very strong, so just connect some of them. And that's interesting, that's pretty. And you know, you can always just sprinkle in some clean water that will also create a few blooms of itself. Right, I'm just going to put this aside. I'm going to leave this to dry, and when we come back we're going to play with our stencil, and we're going to cut out some beautiful feathers and decorate it further. So I'll see you guys right now. You can see the beautiful textures that the salt and the water droplets has given me. Let me bring this a little bit closer for you guys. I absolutely love all these beautiful little plumes that is formed, giving us some beautiful speckled texture. I think that is a lot of fun. Right, so now let's bring in this stencil, and I'm thinking you can either have a surprise, meaning you can do this on the opposite side of your paper and just do a little outline of the feather and then cut it out and then be surprised when you turn it around, or you can deliberately look for interesting places to put the stencil. Now I think I need to have at least 5 of these beautiful feathers on my page. And I'm just looking for a dark enough jelly roll pen that I'm going to use to outline my feather. Now this particular stencil has got an outline and an inside that you can use for printing. So this would be the outline, and this would be sort of the internal structure of the feather. And that's just the stencil that I got, but you don't have to use that. You can do your own thing. So I quite like just using the outside, but we'll see what we get. So like I say, we need about 5 feathers out of this, and you can see as I move the stencil around sort of what the feather will look like. So I think there is a very nice one right there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just outline this for myself very nicely, because then we already have a very nice outline detail to play with. So let's go ahead and glue this down. It's not complicated. I'm just going to open my bottle and I'm going to put some glue on my feathers. I'm using PVA instead of my acrylic medium because the watercolor paper is quite strong. I mean, it's 300 GSM paper, so it's like a cardboard stock. So I want my glue to be strong enough, and I'm also mindful that I must still pull the tape off. I'm gonna put my paper on top of it so I can press down and really let that glue dispense nicely, and just give it a second to take hold on the paper. Awesome. Right. Afterwards, you can always put another dollop there. You can just wipe the glue off, making sure all the little tips are secure. I might have to put a paper on there and put a weight on it just to secure everything nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with all of my feathers. I don't want to waste your time, so when we come back I'll have them all glued down. Hire people with a beautiful handwriting. So I'm just going to go ahead and just freelance this. So let's just do this a beautiful oh, you know, I'm glad that some of my mishaps happen on camera because I want to show you guys that it doesn't always work out the way that you thought it would. Freedom, that is beautiful. Peace and harmony are more words that come to mind. Let's see what would happen if we do some of this over this. It's still wet. Gideon is in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. I must say I do have a dentist appointment later. Right, you guys, here we go. We have feathers. So I've just finished this up nicely. I've added a little bit more texture with my black jelly roll, talking a little bit about, you know, the fibers of the feathers, just to bring a little bit of line work into this beautiful watercolor feathers. And I've also played with my white jelly roll in the background just to sort of bring everything together cohesively, but I left them very abstract, so it really just suggests that there is a lot more feathers lying in the background. And I just love how these colors came together, these pretty textures. It's just beautiful. So this exercise reminded me of the freedom and liberties that we have, that we should never take for granted. And I just love playing with feathers in my art journal and in my art. So I'm curious to see what you guys are going to do with this beautiful prompt of feathers. So do remember to take a photograph and share it with me on the Creative Heart and on the Patreon. And I will see you guys again next week for another creative episode. So thanks for watching and stay creative. Bye bye for now.